something I've been meaning to do a video on for a long time. It's what I consider to be nuanced views about civil rights and the Civil War and all that. You see a lot of, I believe it's manipulation. I believe there's, it's been widely accepted and somewhat proven that the government likes to meddle on social media and get people all divided up and get people fighting each other over trivial little things or even bigger things, but for trivial little reasons that don't really make any sense, that don't hold up if you look at it real close. A good example, and this is going to be about the Civil War, and probably go ahead and merge in the Native Americans too, but certainly the slavery thing. What mainly you see in social media is they feed these things in here you have these sort of liberals or left-leaning people who like to poke at what they consider themselves to be poking at Southern white conservatives. And it's one thing if you're trying to irritate a racist or something like that. I don't think they care that much about it. And the whole argument doesn't hold up, especially when you look at the rest of their beliefs, because a lot of those people are against a lot of the atrocities that's happened more recently, like with the United States, what they've done to other countries or what other countries are doing to each other. You ask them about, they stand a certain way with Ukraine and Russia. They stand a certain way with what the United States did to Iraq, and what Israel is attempting to do to everybody. What Saudi Arabia did to, I suddenly forgot it, that country that they like to stomp on. That slipped my mind at the moment. But anyway, Yemen, I think. The dumb thing is, a lot of times when you're trying to make a point, a manufactured point that is just there to divide people, it becomes pretty obvious when you step on your own point. I'll give you a good example. You have a lot of Southerners that like to wave that Confederate flag. I never have, and I never will. And it's just kind of goofy. It's kind of dumb, and the liberals like to really poke at that, and they make the point. Now this is funny because they make this point. They're so proud of it, and they don't realize they just stepped on something that won't hold up. Just like their defense of the Union over the Confederacy, as far as the armies, won't hold up. Just like the war itself, where they stand, the sadistic as they are about it, it won't hold up if you think about it for any amount of time. They make the point that the Confederate flag only represented such a small part and represented the South, or the Confederacy at the time, for such a short amount of time. And I've seen them say this, and like I don't have any emotional attachment to it because I don't care for the Confederate flag. I've always kind of seen it as a bad omen when I see somebody waving it around. It hasn't always been true, but it's not a good sign. Okay, that's my personal opinion. I've seen a lot of people with it that seem to be okay, but the whole time I'm kind of eyeing them, what's going on here. But they make that point, like it only represented the Confederacy and maybe some certain part of it, and only for so long. And yet they look at it as this huge racist symbol. Well, let me ask you something. Liberals, if you want to answer this, how's the Confederate flag more of a racist flag than the United States flag? Which one presided over more racism and atrocities towards non-white people? and even women. Go ahead, take all the time you need. So why is that one a problem, but the United States flag isn't? So it doesn't make any sense. It immediately won't hold up. And they like to talk about the war itself. They talk down on the Confederacy, the Confederate Army, and just whatever happened to them, all of them, they deserved it. Whatever happened to everybody in the South at the time, just they all deserved it. Man, woman, child, everybody just deserved everything and more. More should have happened to them. Well, let me ask you this. What army was behind the Native American atrocities? I give you a hint. One officer in the Union Army, who to his credit was an abolitionist. He was against slavery. Good point on him. But that's the only good point because he was George Armstrong Custer. Guess what else he was known for? And Tecumseh Sherman, the liberals loved to shove them into the Confederate, into Southern people's faces. What did he get into? Guess what else he did besides the Civil War? See, this won't hold up. Right now, at the United States, all except for some certain elite liberals, most liberals and leftists would take issue with any country doing what the Union did to the Confederate States. They would have a problem with it, and they should. They're right about that. But because they want to piss people off, and not just, it's one thing, certain people you want to piss off, I understand that. You want to piss off one of these hooded nitwits that's probably related to his own parents 3 or 4 times, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. Talk trash on all of the KKK or anybody else you want to. They deserve every bit of it. But just knee-jerk, wanting to offend a Southerner, wanting to offend some, softer than the less offensive conservative, it doesn't make any sense. Don't start something with somebody if they're not doing anything with you. And like I said, it doesn't hold up. Forget all that anyway. It doesn't hold up to your own beliefs. You're being a hypocrite. The bottom line is this. The Union was evil. The Confederacy was very evil. And it was about slavery. That's another thing. So there's a lot of people want to talk about that. It wasn't about it. It took me a little bit of time to understand it, but mainly because of the dates. Because the Emancipation Proclamation happened during the Civil War. But nonetheless, if you look at the whole charter of the Confederacy, it's about slavery. That's a fact. They had some sick ideas. People want to talk about Sharia law these days. You need to read that thing. My goodness. Evil. You just sit there like this the whole time you're reading it. I'm not the most patriotic person in the world, but if you read like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and you might be sitting there as you're reading it and be like, that apparently that didn't apply for everybody. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. But if you read the Confederate version of it, like I said, the whole time you're just like, on one hand, at least they were honest about it, but scum of the earth. My issue, where I get into fights with people about the Civil War, is when they want to trash every single human being that was in the Confederate States and all the horrible things that happened to the people and the cities and all that, saying that's deserved, and saying every single member of that military deserved whatever happened to them. That's not true. That's ridiculous. Some of them were children. Think about that for a second. And they were made to do it. There was a choice. You paid several $1,000s, or they shot you in the head, or you served. And hey, if that wasn't enough inspiration, you had freaks like Tecumseh Sherman is going to come by and burn your entire city and town anyway. So why would you not fight against him? I mean, at worst, you could say that there's a little bit of apathy towards black people at the time. Of course there was. They all had that, with a few exceptions. I will say, if you want to look for any heroes in both the Civil War armies, there was a few Union officers that were amazing people. And I wish I could think of their names, but I haven't been familiar with them for that long. Wasn't taught that in school for some reason. But, you know, another thing that people want to talk about and trashing it is they want to talk about the defeats and stuff like that. I wouldn't lean into that too heavy either, because that's embarrassing if you look at the numbers. If there's one Confederate soldier, you better have 5 or 10 Union soldiers going after them. I'm just telling you the numbers. It doesn't matter who the good guy or bad guy is. I'm telling you the numbers. You see these fights, one-on-one would be bad news for the Union soldiers. And that's not me trying to be pro-Southern. It's because I was taught it, and I know what it is. They had to practically a lot of the Union was just like cannon fodder. I mean, there was some fights towards the end. I remember reading years ago, it has been years, where they kept charging. I want to say it was some of the last few fights. And the Confederacy was very outnumbered, and they kept pushing them back, and they were killing them 10-1. Well, I don't want to say 10-1, but certainly a larger amount of them. Each Confederate soldier, for every Confederate soldier that died, there was probably 3 to 5 Union, and that's just the way it was. If if somebody's going to talk about it, at least try to be accurate about it. Now, I want to stop right here, because as my usual habit, I piss off everybody. So there's probably some people leaning conservative that kind of liked what I just said. They're not going to like what I'm about to say. Reparations needs to happen. It needs to happen for black people, and it needs to happen for Native Americans. You cannot get past this. I've said this before. It's got to be done. And I just watched a video. I don't know what her name was because it was shared by someone else. I need to find this out. There's more stuff that went on than I thought. I mean, if you'd asked me directly about some of this, I would have said I wouldn't be surprised. It about make you tear up. The stuff that happened to them. You cannot just gloss over that. All right, try this again. But it's just simple logic, you know. I've passed the idea of, imagine if there's two people, both poor, and one of them happens to own something that is valuable. They don't know it's valuable at the time. And one of them steals from the other one. And they pass this item down through the family. And they sell it at some point and make a fortune, while the other family stays poor. Are you going to tell me they don't owe something to that person? Seriously. And it just blows me away too that you had Trump in front of Mount Rushmore, and I'm not just trying to pick on Trump, because any of the rest of these scum of the earth politicians would do it. In front of Mount Rushmore. Those 4 people carved in that mountain are garbage, okay? They are. They are. They were then, and they are now. And that includes Lincoln. Things ain't black and white. This is not a cartoon. Some people they do some good things, but they're still an awful person. That's the way that works. There's good things about all of them, I'm sure. I'm sure they did some good things. But that doesn't change what they were, what they did. And it says something. I mean, and I don't guess it's the greatest tribute anyway, having a face on money. But the fact that every time, anybody really, but a black person or a Native American person has to spend money, those faces are on there. They're holding a 20. Andrew Jackson is on there. Trail of Tears, Andrew Jackson. Not like Washington was any better as far as that goes. Or Lincoln. That was the biggest mass execution in history of the United States. Killed a bunch of Native Americans for no reason. No reason. You got Theodore Roosevelt. Only good Indian's a dead Indian. That was his little thing. He said it a little bit more artfully. And again, they had some good qualities to them. I'm sick of people glossing over history. It's weird to me how those people can still be heroes despite what they did. But you let a person get wrecked by the police and they look up everything they did. Everything. He slapped somebody and made them cry, so no reason not to run over them with a police vehicle and then shoot them 49 times. Oh, mass murderer from years ago, they're an American hero. This is getting a little bit discombobulated, but there's a simple issue. You got to look at history accurately and fairly. And yes, you need to look at it like it's modern. You do. I'm so sick of that. People make those excuses. I'm so sick of that. That doesn't hold up. You got a man who is whipping another person and making them work for them. Or who is going into a village and murdering women and children. That's what Custer wanted to do. He wanted to go in there and kill a bunch of old people and women and children. And it just so happened the Braves came back. One of them got up to pee and saw them. And that's when his rear end got sent to hell. And he deserved it. And if he's burning today, he still deserves it. Despite the fact he was an abolitionist. Because like I said, this isn't a cartoon. Things aren't black and white. You're not just all evil and all good. Most people aren't. We need to learn to have some nuance about this. We need to have some nuance about talking about the Civil War so we can learn to heal as a country. And we need to heal as far as what this country did to people. Yeah, other countries did it too. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about this country. We're not doing the whataboutism game. We need to, as best as we can, fix what happened to Native Americans and make it up to them in some kind of way. And make it up to black people. You can't just sit there and be like, well... And that's influenced modern politics to this day. The libertarians want to take over and just be like, okay, cut everything out. Or you're just going to play where it lays. You can't do that. You have to fix what's been damaged. As best you can. That's life. If you hurt someone, you can't take it back. You can't take it back. But you can try to do something. Make it up to them as best you can. You don't just kind of do the what me worry thing like Alfred E. Newman or something like that and say sorry and then walk away. No, you have to redress the balance a little bit. If you owe somebody something, you got to pay it to them. And I think the main reason they don't want to touch reparations is because the more you think about it, you're like, wait a minute. Shouldn't every human being automatically have a piece of this world that they're born into? Wouldn't that be what God would want? You think they want you wouldn't think God wants somebody to just be born and then all of a sudden owe debt? They got two choices, work or die. They got no claim to the planet he made. That doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, this has kind of went off the rails a little bit. I knew it would if I didn't sort of plan something out in kind of a complicated mood anyway. But there's my thoughts on the Civil War and what needs to be done as far as the people have been victimized in this country. And you could even make an argument that maybe women deserve some kind of reparations. That's what it is. It's a can of worms that they don't want to touch. There's going to be certain people that don't get any. And no, I don't mean all white people. I mean, it's going to take away the elite's power. It's not even a race thing, strangely enough, when it comes down to it. It's going to take away their power. Because their power is that people don't have anything. So, of course, they're not going to give somebody something. They're going to give somebody something that they're owed. Anyway.